Welcome back, everyone. So consciousness engineering is based on the idea that what shapes us as a human being are our models of reality and our systems for living, and that both of these are highly hackable. You can enhance and adapt and improve both your models and your systems of living far easier than what we've been trained to believe. So in this video, we're going to talk about the first aspect, your models of reality. And I want to share with you some fascinating ideas that have shown me just how much power our models of reality have over the life we lead. Maxwell Maltz was a famous plastic surgeon, and he went on to write a book called Psycho-Cybernetics precisely on this topic. See, what Maltz found is that after he would perform plastic surgery on someone, their way of showing up in the world would dramatically change. They might have more confidence. They might have a different personality in some cases. And he got fascinated by what was going on. It turned out it wasn't that a slightly different nose would change their personality, but when their nose was changed in a slight way, it made them shift their model of reality. They started to believe that they were more confident, or they started to believe that they looked better. This changed a whole string of other beliefs in their mind. Maltz went on to write, "It's no exaggeration to say that every human being is hypnotized to some extent, either by ideas he has uncritically accepted from others or ideas he has repeated to himself or convinced himself are true. We convince ourselves that we are good looking or that we are ugly. We convince ourselves that we are smart or that we are stupid. So much of what we believe about the world was programmed into us or taken on by our childlike mind trying to make sense of a complex world." I'd like to share a story with you of how I had a massive shift in a model of reality. And I want to share this story because it might make you remember a moment in your past where you took on a belief by accident as a child. Now, I must have been 14 or 15. My dad had just become an entrepreneur. He had just started a company and he was working hard. He was basically a trader. He would import clothing from certain factories, repackage them, put on labels, and then ship them to department stores. So he had a warehouse, he had his truck drivers, and he worked really hard, putting clothing in boxes, hauling them in the back of trucks, and it paid the bills. And I was so proud of my dad for running his own business and being an entrepreneur. But I also observed how hard my dad worked, and I began to believe and take on two different models of reality. First model is that you must be an entrepreneur to be safe. The second model was a dangerous one. Hard work is essential to success. One day when I was 15, I was watching TV, and as usual, I hear my dad come in. So my mom greets him. I say, "Hi, Dad." My teenage brain still glued to the television. I hear my dad greet me back, and then we hear a loud crash. Both my mom and I go frantically running to my dad, and I see that he's fallen over backwards. He basically had used up all his energy that day at work, that he walked into the house, had just enough energy to greet us, and then collapsed from sheer exhaustion. That was how hard he worked. I, growing up, saw my dad work hard. I was in that warehouse with him, often after school, packing boxes, hauling them at the back of trucks. And my belief system said that hard work was essential to success. So when I became an entrepreneur in 2003 and started Mind Valley, I decided that I was going to be a hard worker. I put in late hours. I would work hard on things, even if I didn't really enjoy them or if they didn't make me light up. I believed that hard work would inevitably lead to success. And then something happened. I became a dad. In 2007, my son Hayden was born. All of a sudden, I faced this dilemma. How do I work hard when I also have the expectations of being a father, of the sleepless nights trying to burp a baby who wakes you up in the middle of the night, the walks in the park when you're pushing your baby in a stroller, In our family, the mom and the dad have equal responsibility for the child. And so I had certain expectations as a father that took away my time from work. And this belief kicked in. Now, I wasn't working hard anymore. I was not going to be successful. Within 10 months of becoming a father, something odd started happening. I started losing money in the business. We were doing $250,000 a month, but burning through $15,000 to $20,000 a month. I remember looking at our accounts and realizing the dreadful thought that I was reaching a stage where I may have to start laying off the 18 people who were working for me. It was frightening as hell. I was just doing my best to try to be a good dad. But the amount of time this was taking away from work caused this insidious belief to tell me that I was now bound to fail. So you can see, I had taken on this belief of hard work equaling success from my father, watching how hard he worked. In my mind, in my childlike mind, I never saw that as my dad growing up in a different era from me. I never saw that in my era, we now had the iPhone, which had just come out in 2008. We had advanced computers. We had the internet. There were other ways to do good and succeed as an entrepreneur. All of that didn't make sense because the overriding model of reality was work hard and hustle or be a failure. Now, this put me in a big, deep depression, knowing that we were running out of cash. And often what happens when we go through these shifts in our reality, this disorienting dilemma, is that we turn to personal growth for answers. This was one of the times when those happened. I remember flying to San Diego to attend a seminar by Esther Hicks. I signed up for another seminar by Harv Eker called Millionaire Mind Intensive. I read books by Neil Donald Walsh, the Conversation with God book series. And as I was going through these ideas, a realization hit me. There was a shift in my belief. You see, your models of reality change when you invest in personal growth. A lot of what I'm doing in this program up to now is showing you alternate models and slowly chipping away at outdated models. That is what started happening to me in the summer of 2008. And when the model of reality shifted, everything shifted. Within 8 months, from May to December, we went through the biggest growth our company had ever seen. We grew our monthly revenue 400%. In May, I was doing $250,000, losing $20K, and on the verge of losing everything. By December, we were doing $1 million in sales. What changed? Well, a lot, frankly. We had new advisors, we brought in some great talent, we learned new models of running the business. But the root cause of all that change was that my belief system shifted. I'd upgraded my model of reality through the persistent study of personal growth. And that's the key idea over here. A bad model of reality, just like an outdated hard drive, can be swapped out and you can install new hardware. Your models are changeable. And when you change your models, science says that everything about your life starts to change. The great hypnotherapist Jose Silva would demonstrate this in front of a live audience. He would hypnotize someone, make them come up front, hold up their hand. He would then take a marker and convince them in their mind that this was a red hot poker. He would put that on their hand, remove it, and a burn bubble would form. Jose Silva would then tell this person in a hypnotic state that he could heal the burn bubble with his hand. He would place his hand over the burn bubble and it would disappear. Instant change in your skin on command. Think about how powerful beliefs are. Scientists see the same thing in patients with multiple personality disorder. As new personalities enter a person's mind, even things such as their eyesight changes. Imagine eye power changing when a new personality with a new belief system enters someone's mind. Now, one of the most fascinating studies is the Fit Hotel Maid study. So a group of psychologists one day noticed that many maids in hotels were doing a lot of daily exercise. They were flipping over mattresses, running up and down stairs, holding vacuum cleaners, but these maids were often unfit. So they decided to try an experiment. They decided to create a fake study. The fake study, they told the maids in a hotel, was about understanding how much work they were doing in a given day. So they would have the maids sit down, The maids would go through this study, and as the maids described what they were doing in a given day, the psychologist would then reply and say, "Wow, that's really impressive. Do you know you're burning this number of calories and that what you're doing is actually very effective exercise? You must be really fit," or something to that effect. Now, 1 month later, they went back to measure any changes in the physical body of the maid. And what they found is that inevitably, these maids had started losing weight. Their blood cholesterol had gone down. Health markers had gone up because these maids had been given a new belief system. And that new belief system is that their work was exercise. So think about this. If belief systems can change your physical body, what else can it change? Well, it turns out when you take on a new model of reality, it can also change the people around you. A 1968 study called the Pygmalion effect showed that you could take teachers and tell them in fake secrecy that there were 3 or 4 or 5 kids in their class who tested as geniuses, and then tell the teachers that they are not allowed to give these kids any special treatment or even share this with anyone. What this study found is that even if these geniuses were completely fake, in other words, you picked random kids, at the end of the year, those kids would start performing better than everyone else simply because the teachers believed that they were more intelligent. Your beliefs impact the people around you. What you expect to be true about the world makes it so. So many of us take on models of reality from the culturescape. But how many of these models actually make sense? For example, calorie counting. I don't believe in it. And most biohackers and many of the world's top doctors and nutritionists say that calorie counting is bunk. Calorie counting is a very basic and primitive way of trying to lose weight. Newer models like WildFit show that there are more complex mechanisms in terms of our relationship with food and that we can dramatically lose weight and transform our health by recognizing these newer models. Now let's take retirement. Is retirement as a model for living really necessary in a rapidly changing world? Intuition, studies show, works for you when you believe that it's real. And then there's religion. So many aspects of religion are beautiful, but there are also aspects of religion rooted in outdated beliefs that suppress people and fill us with guilt and shame. Then there are ideas such as university education. Is that really necessary in a rapidly changing world? At Mindvalley, we created radically different forms of education that I personally believe are more powerful in terms of creating happier, healthier, more fulfilling lives than a traditional university degree. So it's important as you go through life to pay attention to new models of reality that are emerging. And a great way to do this is through personal growth. When you immerse yourself in personal growth, you start to learn new models of reality about how the world operates. For example, I gained an understanding of the power of the human mind from early books I picked up, such as books by Jose Silva or Maxwell Maltz. New emerging models of reality that you might want to explore are models such as human intuition, the idea that the mind influences reality, mind-body healing, work as passion, self-directed learning. And then if you look at the various structures of our life, from parenting to love to fitness, there are new emerging models as well. One of my favorite things about being the founder of Mindvalley is I get to meet and work with many of these leading edge thinkers and take their models and turn them into quest programs that you can learn from. For example, you can parent the regular way, or you can look at Dr. Shafali Sabari's conscious parenting methodology. You can go through relationships the regular way, or you can look at the work of Catherine Woodward Thomas in terms of calling in the one or conscious uncoupling. You can look at fitness the regular way, or you can look at newer models of fitness from biohackers like Ben Greenfield or Mindvalley's 10X protocol for increasing strength. So as our world is changing, as so much new research, as so many people are becoming modern day explorers of human potential, new models emerge, and you want to live a life where you're constantly upgrading your models. You'll learn how to do so deeper in this program. So understand this from this video. Reality is not absolute. You're making it up all the time. no exceptions. And you can change your outer reality by shifting the models of reality inside your head.